So, okay, now that we've understood the adjustment on the revenue side, using how elasticity is useful for that, adjusting marginal revenue because the monopolist faces the entire market demand curve and isn't just facing a price-taking, infinitely elastic demand because they're just a teeny tiny portion of the market. Let's see what the monopolist does. So this reproduces your demand curve, your marginal revenue curve that we just developed. And now we're going to remember the following. For a monopolist, there is no supply curve. They're a price taker, profit maximizer. I'm sorry. So now you're going to have to edit that. So now we're going to remember that for a monopolist, there is no supply curve. They're a price maker, not a price taker. There is no pre-given price at which you decide what to supply and so on. You choose your quantity and price. Still a profit maximizer, but you're a price maker. Also, there's only one cost curve. There isn't like multiple firms with multiple cost curves, blah, 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 that you add across, because there's just monopoly. Just one cost curve, one firm. Short run, long run. Here we go. Average total cost. Average variable cost. Marginal cost. And what you're going to do as a monopolist is you're going to do what any profit maximizing firm does. You're going to look where marginal revenue and marginal cost meet, because that's where you maximize your profit. And in our case, it's here. But the key is I've got a different marginal revenue curve than I had in the past. This is where the profit maximizing monopolist will provide. And this is how much they will provide. Now pay attention to this. The lowest cost, if I had perfect competition, would be here, far lower than the monopolist price. Do you see that? By raising their price, they managed to get better profits. But from a consumer's perspective, the price could have been less, because we know that the price is in the short run or long run, it's at that bottom of your cost curves. Either way, the price could have been a lot lower. And the quantity could have been a lot higher, because if you weren't a monopolist, you would have a price at the bottom there, and new firms would have entered. More firms would have entered, expanded the production, and got you to that point where price hits the demand curve. So with a monopolist, you have higher price, lower quantity, compared to under perfect competition, lower price, better quantity. And that's what we mean when we say monopoly is not good for the economy. So what can we do about this? Clearly, when we don't have a perfect market and you've got a monopoly, the price is higher, the quantity is lower than what it could be if you had competition where the price would be the best one you can get, which is at the bottom of the cost curve, and the costs would be the lowest you can get, plus the quantity can be much larger all the way out to the demand curve, because you're going to have lots of firms. Right? What can we do about this? Because just from an efficiency perspective, forget equity, forget ecology, forget all those. We'll come to those later. But this is not even efficient, right? So what do you do? What do you do if you've got Amazon? What do you do if you had, as the book talks about, the problem of Bell, which controlled the telephone market in the US for so long? Many things you can do. One, you can have regulation that makes rules about the conditions under which corporations can buy each other and become these monopolies. You can also have rules that talk about the volume of market share that a corporation can get away with before they are technically a monopoly. We can also find out whether the corporations doing some illegal actions, such as deliberately hiking the price or undercutting competition in order to become the only person there. So one of the very famous examples is Amazon is known to have undercut Barnes and Nobles and other bookstores for a very long time, using its monopoly power to actually lower the price for a short term, make sure their competitors lost their profit, and then the moment the competitors disappeared, jack those prices up again. So there is a lot of items that have to do with regulation you can do. You can do rules about market share. You can have the government say, if this is a monopoly, either you have to open it up to competition if it's feasible, or in some cases, Iceland is a great example, if you can't open it up to competition because the sheer scale of production is so big that a single company would just dominate the market, they can have the government run it themselves. So in Iceland, oil and natural gas is a government proposition, and they use their money from oil and offshore gas, all of the industry that they get from energy, to fund a social welfare system where the ordinary citizen gets the benefit of this. So that even though there is a monopoly, in this case by the government, the benefits of that profit are then shared by the public. Right? So there are things you can do that have to either do with nationalizing monopolies, regulating monopolies, breaking up monopolies, and here is the final item: you can globalize. It might be that the reason you've got a monopoly is that you don't have competition because you're the only player in town. Car industry, Detroit. I'm the only American company. I'm the only producing location. But if I open it up to competition, then maybe at a global scale, other corporations from other parts of the world can come in, produce more cheaply, and force me to compete. And when they force me to compete, they are forcing me to produce at the cheapest price in the most technologically efficient way, and produce at a lower cost and meet more of the market. So globalization, regulation, nationalization are all mechanisms by which we seek to solve the problem of monopolies.